Hello, here we are once again with Mookie Tenembaum. We are exploring through these videos his philosophy, his disillusionism, and the misalgic theory, which explains human behavior as aversion to suffering. As many of you know already, month after month, for 2 years now, more than 2 years, we've been trying to illustrate this philosophy, trying to apply these rather abstract concepts to matters of everyday life. We've been following the news, even analyzing aspects of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, of the war in the Ukraine. But today we are going to focus in a very philosophical, maybe the most philosophical of topics, not death per se, but what happens after death and what different theories believe about the post-mortem, what happens after we die, after others die, and of course trying to shed some disillusionist light on these beliefs.
Well, when we're going to talk about religion and post-mortem, and we will talk after the illusions, all the illusions and the post-mortem. First of all, let me be clear. Yes, disillusionism has nothing to do with those, and we will talk about it later. This is I would say, the territory of hope. You see, the last thing you lose is hope, and the one before the last is common sense. So common sense is not there. Having said that, it's very interesting how detailed the post-mortem picture is drawn by, especially by religions, but also by states and families. And let me begin with religions. You have two groups of religions, how they deal with post-mortem. All of them say there is a post-mortem. On one hand, the Western religions, if you can say that Islam is a Western religion, the three monotheistic religions, and some of the others, and then you have the Eastern religions. The big difference is one says certain things will happen, either you will rise from the dead, or your soul will go up. I don't know why up and not sideways. Apparently it's up, and you go up, and then there is a very detailed description what happens and what angels do, and there's a whole topology of the postmortem. There is a why, because the more details you have, the better it looks. The more real it looks, the more believable. Now, since you already are, when you are listening to this, in the territory of hope, you will accept anything, but the more details, it will be stronger. You will feel stronger that this is what's going to happen. On the Eastern religion, basically, they talk about reincarnation and life as a circle, but still not just any reincarnation. Again, both in the reincarnation, in the Eastern religions and the Western religions, in both of them, you have to do things to merit, because this is based on merit.
It's not free.
No, of course not. The meritocracy, the real meritocracy happens there. Yes, the better you are, the higher you get, the better you go, the closer to God, the closer to, the longer, the shorter, everything will work, the better you are. Now, what is better, of course, that there is different kind of views of religion, but in general, it means you sacrifice yourself. That means you suffer for them. And the bigger Jesus as the big sufferer, yes, he is like he was never misalgic. Yes, he was a stoic. Stoic. They just crucified him. Yes, not that he had a choice. But all this is related to how do we deal with death in a way in which you will end up somewhere, thanks to your effort, thanks to your suffering, you will end up in a better place, at least in another place. Okay. Now, so if you are a bad person, then your karma, depending on the religion, or you will end up being an ant or something terrible, And there are even levels, and you die again and again until you reach a level, depending. Buddhism deals with that. I don't want to bother, because it's all nonsense, basically. Just to make it clear. Having said that, being able to believe in that, it's a big plus, because you are not going. The terror of death and some other sufferings, some other sources of sufferings are being dealt with effectively, and that means you don't suffer from it, and that's a great thing. But for that, you have to believe. My grandfather, the father of my father, when he was dying, it was very obvious that he wasn't worried at all. Somebody was waiting for him in the other side. The Egyptians had a river, yes, in which death will go into a river. There's a crossing, and they had a river. That's the only thing they had, the Egyptians, but they had a river. Nothing else. That was Egypt. Sand and rivers.
What other metaphor?
Either you go to
Could they
the
choose?
sand, or they can go to the river. But this is how religions dealt with and deal with the issue. But then you go one step further, Florencio, and you have other illusions. But before I go into that, two things. One, to tell you, to remind our audience that in religion, the post-mortem is fixed. Nothing will change. Everything, is the same post-mortem for the people in the Middle Ages and from there is no modernism in that. And there is an entity that guarantees it, that he himself is not only immortal, because you see, to give immortality, you have to be immortal yourself. So it's also unmutable. He will be always there, and it's always
unchanging.
Yes. Now I wanted to hear your opinion. I just
I just like the typology of sorts, because of course you have the whole idea of an afterlife, and I take what you say. There is no such thing as a free afterlife. You have to earn it somehow, and this means lots of different activities in life. But I see the difference between that kind of afterlife that transpires in another world and that which simply means you come back to this world once and again. They both share these supernatural elements. They both share this, I would say, immortal, unchanging intermediary, and that it's God or gods, because polytheistic religions also had notions of the afterlife here or elsewhere. But I do feel there's also an afterlife of sorts, even without souls, even without gods. When we leave religion behind, the afterlife is not lost amongst those who believe, as you said, in the state and family. But does this work in the same way?
Well, communist countries, and even France, the post-revolutionary France, have monuments, have mausoleums. Yes, there is an immortality in, I would say it's a memory-based immortality. That's, you are going to live in the memory of of all the French people, or if you became a hero and you gave your life, then you will have a nice monument, and there will be people shooting, and the whole thing with the flag, and they come and they give you the flag and everything. All that part, all that issue is immortality. You dead. It really doesn't matter if you died saving 500 kids from a bomb, or raping an old woman. It doesn't matter. You did. Finish. But remember, yes, it's a merit-based thing. So again, merit will result in more memory. You will now. You are not there. I know we are supposed to talk about disillusionism position later, but you're not there. It's gone. The point of view is dead. That means anything that the point of view, it's gone. When you are dead, you were never born. It's total, absolute, finish, nothing. And it doesn't matter who will remember you, because you will not be there to realize they remember you. So what happens? You now imagine somebody else remembering you. Wow. But it works. Honestly, it works for two reasons. It works because you're dealing with the terror of death, and it works because you can talk about the post-mortem and deal with the post-mortem instead of dealing with the problems today. So it becomes a distraction and an effective, a very effective tool for not suffering. Bravo, fantastic, brilliant. Of course, that's the reason it's so popular. That and many other reasons. So when you have a family, I was clear, yes, you will live in the memory of your children and your grandchildren. And of course, there is the genes thing. Yes, your genes are being perpetuated in somebody else. You don't know what the gene is. In fact, it's a piece of data. It's not something that goes there. Your word, if you wrote something, yes, you make videos. Some people making videos for them, but you are not going to be there. Imagine yourself, you're sleeping and somebody else is looking at your videos and you never know about it. Do you care? You care if you wake up and the person says, hey, by night, Mookie, I saw your video with Florencio. And it's important. But if I don't wake up, who cares? The answer is they do. And they are right. So if they can, you have to be, I will use a word, you have to be to afford believing in these things. You have to afford, and I can afford it. You cannot afford it, and many of our followers cannot afford it. But this is the fact. We deal with it. But even on practical matters, Florencio, life insurance. Life insurance is very useful, misalgically speaking. That means to avert suffering. Why? Because when you write, let's say, a will, the Anglo-Saxon word is very common, you write a will, the people who are going to be your inheritors know about it today. You assuage their fears today. What happened after? It's not about the afterlife. It's about this life to tell them. But the truth is that it's irrelevant. You are not there. And I cannot stress enough times, you are not there. You are not there. You will never be there. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is that death, I die, you die, the dog dies, the tree dies, the 5-year plan died. I mean, we're using the same verb for something, first of all, extremely disruptive. The same verb. For looking, we have looking, leading, looking askance. I mean, you have the whole list. Go to really to the thesaurus. See how many you have. Death. That's it. What do you have? Death, kick the bucket. I mean, you only have the joking part about death. So this is weird. Yes, that we deal with death like my death is the same thing as something else dies. Anything else that dies, being the terrible thing, my child, or being just a mosquito, it's different. It is radically different from my death because this is the point of view. And what do you think about it?
Just one little thing, it caught my imagination how the Russian Revolution ended up building a pyramid for Lenin, and the French Revolution ended up building a pantheon for its dead heroes, which is weird to say the least in context where apparently religion and supernatural belief were ousted for good. But maybe more importantly, I completely see your point about the destructive power of the afterlife for us during our lives. I agree it's meaningless once death comes, because once death comes, nothing is left there for us. But what happens with these plans for the afterlife and this belief in the post-mortem for the rest, for those who are not the one dying? Because here also there are misalgic benefits. There is consolation, there is distraction in the way we handle with this. I think it's maybe a win-win situation. because it's yeah. Sorry.
No, the word is solace. Yes, you want to say now that getting solace. But the interesting thing about this is when I was listening to you, I have an answer for you. But first of all, let me put it. If it's in my case, there is nothing good about it. Nothing, zero. But when I participate in somebody else's death, there are several advantages. First, there are a lot of little rules. A lot of things, like in the postmortem. You have to do this, you have to walk like this, and then if you, I know very well Judaism and a little bit less about other religions, but in Judaism there is billions of rules. It's a third of the rules of Judaism have to do with that week or that month after death. That's a great thing, because everybody is distracted trying to keep the rules. The second thing is that you can sleepwalk. If there are rules, you can sleepwalk. Rules, laws are done. The best benefit is that you can sleepwalk once you know the rules. If you don't know the rules, if you're walking in the dark, you can't sleepwalk. But if you're walking in the same sidewalk that you walk every day to the bus, you don't even have to have your eyes open almost. So you can sleepwalk with all this. This is one part. The other part is again distraction. We think about something else. Yes, instead. Again, Judaism is something that I know well. So there is two rules that I'm reminded. One of them, it says that when you come to give solace to people during the week of the first week after the burial. It says, the Talmud says that each person takes one above 36. Look, it's mathematical idea of the grief of the person who is now in pain. 1 over 36. So 36 people should come and visit. It is true, because each one of them distracts the person and takes the pain. It's not, of course, it's not because it's magic. It's not because the grief goes. You just distracted. So that's I would say the point that has to do with the distraction for the survivors, not my survivors, because there will be no my survivors.
No.
Nobody will survive me. But to the others that I see, again.
We're almost done time-wise. So if we have anything last wishes, any more to say, now is the time.
Well, there is two minor issues, but I think they're worth mentioning. The first one has to do with loneliness. You see, one of the things that death, that the postmortem have, is that it will continue to be gregarious. You will be with your family, or you will be with God, that you will never be alone. There is no postmortem in which you are there and there is nothing. Silence, absolutely nothing, which is very close to what's going to happen. Yes, it has to be, noisy and people going up and down and upstairs, downstairs, people coming, hugging. Yes, the whole thing appears, and the more detailed, the more the primitive, of course, it is. But the more it has that effect. But there is another small issue also. Has to do with age. You see, it is not the same thinking of postmortem at the age of 20 than at the age of 80. And once you think about postmortem at the age of 20, you have so much of premortem to run, or you think you do, that you don't care. And it makes sense. If I ask you now, listen, you may have a problem, an economic problem in 25 years, or next month. Of course, you will. For a person in at a very advanced age, it's not next month, but it's it's there. So your the postmortem has the ability of making, not feeling the end, but it's going to continue and so forth. And there is a tendency for older people, we've seen that, to believe in God, to go through the rites, to think about how they will be interned, how many people will come to their wake. Some people I know somebody who bought themselves a piece of a parcel of land to be buried. So his children will not have to pay for it. Things. that are
precise
from disillusioning,
planning. Yeah.
from this precise, but from disillusionist point of view, just crazy stuff.
It will come back to haunt us, the crazy stuff. I'm sure. This is not the end of it.
Well, death is the end of everything. Your own death is the end of everything. But till then, it's
crazy stuff all over.
It's part of life. It's part of life. Yeah.
Very
Have
well.
a great day.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
If you enjoyed the video, please like it, comment and subscribe.